Okay. So on my end, it looks like you can see the PowerPoint. Please put in the chat if I am wrong. But my name is Megan Weldon. I am here to give you the July update for Rapido. Today, we will be following the usual format of these monthly updates. The agenda outline today will follow in this order. We'll start with the Rapido Community. We'll cover the July release and a frequently asked question for the month. To start the conversation in regards to the Rapido community, we wanted to acknowledge the incredible community in Hong Kong. It was a great experience for my colleagues. They shared that it was an unforgettable experience with insightful conversations, valuable feedback, and it provided a great context of your use of Rapido. The enthusiasm was felt and the meeting was inspiring. So thank you for that opportunity to connect. We'd also like to acknowledge the newest member of the UK pod. Congratulations to Nottingham Trent University for going live with Rapido. Additionally, Portland Community College went live this week with the US and US West pods. Another important part for our community is the upcoming conference. Last month in May, we had the privilege of connecting with so many of you at the Aluna conference. And there's another conference for the International Ex Libris User Group. So registration for the Igloo conference is now open. Moving to our July release update. The majority of the July developments are all about connections. Rapido is a connected part of the resource sharing ecosystem, and we've got some developments in this regard. So first off, it's the hybrid pods development, which is a development to support the use of hybrid pods. Hybrid pods are pods that support resource sharing between Rapido libraries and Alma and libraries using Alma resource sharing. This development simplifies the setup. Libraries currently participating in hybrid pods know that essentially there was a borrowing and a lending version of the Rapido partner. This was due to Rapido's borrowing being managed by the pod, yet lending was reliant on terms of use. Now the pod terms are taking place for the Rapido library on both ends of that, and the system knows which libraries are in the pods and will add a partner from the community zone if the library is not yet in the partner list. So it really simplifies the setup for the Rapido libraries to participate in these hybrid pods as you're familiar in working in pods. We've added documentation to our configuration page so that you can see how to set up hybrid pods. First step, like any other pod, is letting us know that you want a pod to be created and share those terms with us. Your Alma resource sharing libraries will need to join the directory and turn on data sharing. And then the steps are outlined below. You'll add workflow profiles for one another, and the Rapido libraries, you'll order the pods according to your preferred use of those partners. And libraries will have some more peer-to-peer aspects to configure for working with you in this way. Another development for the July release related to connections will be the ability to enable registration for partners. This functionality is useful for lending to organizations and institutions that lack a resource sharing solution or may need to acquire items from your collection without using a resource sharing solution. So examples that resonated with me from my experience at my former library, we would get requests from Fish and Wildlife or the Forest Service or local historical societies. These were all organizations that we had agreements with to facilitate access to our collections, but they didn't have a resource sharing solution. So you might have colleagues, individuals, and organizations that you want to facilitate resource sharing for, share your collections with through resource sharing. And if you enable this setting, you'll be able to support that use. Again, this setting is not out of the box as far as not the default, so you will have to enable it. And if you do, at the login screen, they'll get that not a member yet, register here prompt. It's easy configuration to make. You'll see under Discovery, Display Configuration, Configure Views, and then you see that checkbox highlighted in red there, the Allow the Self-Registration. The form can also be customized to allow you to change the labels within the form, and you can determine which user groups would have be able to register, be able to have access to the form. Looking at that form, if the user selects they're registering as an individual, they'll get one form. And again, you can configure these fields, configure the labels rather of these fields. And so this is it without any of your customization. And then the organization version of that just looks slightly different without any of your customization there. The next release relates to the ALA partner release that came out in our February release. It's also about connecting with partners. In February, if you recall, we had a development that created the ALA partner type. ALA partners might be useful when you're borrowing from a partner or an institution that either lacks an alternative resource sharing solution or is not connected with you by other means or automated means. So in configuring the ALA partner type, um, once they're configured, you can add them to your request. And then when you send that request to that ALA partner, they receive this form that is auto-populated with the request values and request details, and it's sent to them via email and by the address that you configure within that partner. The related development to this functionality with the July release is that you'll now be able to find that delivered form within the attachments tab of the request. And from there, you have the actions, review, edit, and delete. Some further releases within the July development pertain to customizing things in Rapido. One of these is going to be the ability to utilize pods as a facet within your sets. So you can add this facet to existing sets or make new sets with the pod as a set facet. Perhaps this is useful for you in organizing your workflows. For example, perhaps you utilize a different shipping method for your regional pod. You may want a set that helps you identify items needing to be pulled and packaged earlier in the day to get out to these partners than items going out for requests shipped via other means. I'm sure you can think of other use cases, but you can see there that you now have your pods available as a facet in your sets. Another aspect coming to sets, it may be most useful and most relevant to libraries that go live or prior to experiencing too many requests. Previously, you needed a request within a set parameter to have the facets available to you in making a set. With this release, you'll see the facets when you select to include zero value. You can then make sets to support your workload and volume prior to seeing requests come through. Okay, that covers our main releases for the July release. But there were a couple resolved issues that you'll find in the release notes. That's always included in our release notes, so you can look for those in a comprehensive list there. But there were a few items that I thought were worth mentioning as they were reported via multiple cases, and you can see them outlined here. There were just a few cases connected with them, and obviously your cases will get updated, but I thought as there was interest from several libraries, it would be valuable for you to see that these issues have been resolved. Further within the developments for July, we've got some things for our analytics. So that Rapido out-of-the-box reports are available within the shared folder of analytics. So if you navigate to analytics, catalog, and then shared folder, you'll see a folder of Rapido where you'll find dashboards, reports, and widgets all nested in there. We have two new reports in the July release that you'll find in there, and they are the rejected titles report and the rejected reasons report. I've been working with libraries on analytics questions, and the few libraries I've worked with recently, our out-of-the-box reports have been really helpful in answering the various questions that they have, and these reports also link to the questions that I've been hearing from libraries that they're asking of their analytics And there's a lot that you can do with these reports. Some folks will use these to see if you've got adequate staffing for filling lending requests, what you're identifying as lendable. Maybe you'll look at how your shelving practices or missing items are handled in your library. Whatever kind of question this information is now there for you in looking at your analytics in Rapido. So frequently asked question, there's a question that I've heard a few times in my recent meetings. And that question is, how do I prevent duplicate requests from a patron? And one of those answers is at the time of discovery. So changing this setting to true limits the user from placing multiple requests on an item. However, if you don't want to limit the request at point of discovery, there's another way for you to work with these requests, and that's through using a copyright rule. And configuring that copyright rule will help you identify requests and act accordingly to local practices. So there's a parameter in copyright rules called number of requests per user for specific resource. And then so you can select that number that you would want to kind of trigger that rule, and perhaps use a time frame parameter with that to support your use of that copyright rule in local practices. So thank you. That's what I have for you with our July release, our July update, and covering our July release, our frequently asked questions, and what's new in the community. I'm going to invite you to post your questions now, and so I'm going to navigate to the chat to see what your questions are today. Okay. I'm not seeing anything in chat. I do know that earlier today the chat did not allow posting. So I am selecting, if you're having a hard time getting something into the chat, I'm selecting now to allow you to unmute yourself if you need to speak up to ask your question. Um, I don't know if the chat is working because I don't see anything in there, but you should be able to unmute yourself now if you need to ask a question, or you're welcome to send me an email as well. Um, and we can work through your questions together. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions come into the chat. I don't know if that's causing, if it's because due to a problem or a lack of questions. And I thought I made it so that you could unmute yourself if needed. I apologize if I'm not working very well with the technology to connect with you today. But if you've got a question that's not answered, please send me an email if we're not getting to it in this time together. All right, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing anything in the chat. I'm not hearing anybody speak up about having questions. So I will end our time today. With that, we'll post a recording of the webinar on the same site that you go to register, where you can find registrations for webinars for the rest of the year. If you have remaining questions that were not acknowledged today, please send me an email and I'll be happy to work with you on your questions. Take care.